Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rennch, where on today's show, I'm going to show you my restoration of arguably the world's most hideous Porsche dashboard. So as you can see, I'm not in the workshop right now. This episode is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a two-parter. So the first part is going to be showing you how I restored my Porsche dashboard. The second part is how I covered it, how I wrapped it in vinyl, neither of which I'd done anything like before. So the problem is, when I originally restored the dashboard, I wasn't doing a YouTube channel, but I took tons of close-up photo documentation. So what this first video is going to be is I'm going to take you through the entire slideshow of what I did to restore this dashboard. So it won't be live motion video. I apologize for that, but I'm going to do voiceover. I think if you follow this along, you'll be able to fix and restore any problems you have with your Porsche 911 dashboard. So before I jump in, I would love if you wouldn't mind, I have a fledgling YouTube channel. So we're still growing. I'd love to get to at least 1,000 subscribers if possible. So if you wouldn't mind, just clicking that subscribe button. And if you want, click the little notification bell to let you know when I put out new videos. And with my begging done, let's jump into the restoration.
So the typical early Porsche dashboard is foam covered by vinyl. But over the years, all the vinyl gets really brittle and starts cracking. We all have had cracks in our dashboard. Mine was particularly problematic because somebody had chosen to use construction adhesive, otherwise known as liquid nails, to keep the plastic cover on the dash. So in my rookie mistake, I pulled the plastic dashboard off. If I had to do it again, I of course would have hit it with a heat gun first before you start commenting on YouTube. I know. So this is what it actually looked like after I extracted the dashboard. But let me show you a bit of that process. So this is the construction adhesive they used, as well as some of the plastic dash that was on top. You can see it never was really meant to come off. And as soon as I started removing the plastic, huge chunks of the vinyl and the foam would come off. There was also a whole corner of the dashboard that was completely broken off that I was going to have to figure out how to glue back on. And you can see it was just mayhem. So the next thing I had to do is really hit the heat gun and see what I was left with once I scraped all the glue off. Once the glue was gone, this is what I had to work with. So now it at least looked kind of like a dashboard again, but there were huge chunks of foam missing. There was huge chunks of vinyl. Obviously, the entire thing had to be recovered. I didn't really want to use the center speaker hole, because I wasn't going to run a speaker in my dashboard. So I wanted to cover that up as well. But this is the basic baseline of what I started with. The first thing I wanted to do is attack the cracks in the vinyl. So to repair those, you've got to give the epoxy something to bite onto. So I hit it with a Dremel and I filled the hole with epoxy. You can check the epoxy in the description. But it starts coming together. In fact, when I got the epoxy in there, all of a sudden the dashboard had a little bit of integrity, which it hadn't at all before. And that's when I started feeling, oh, maybe this could be a thing. The next thing I had to tackle was how to fix the broken off corner. So I kept trying to glue it. It did not stay. So eventually I settled on hitting it with the epoxy and then strapping the corner together so it would just stay together. So after letting that thing dry for a few hours, I had what would be effectively a solid corner. After the epoxy had set, I had to sand the thing down. So I gave it my first round with the DA sander. And I had to say, it was actually coming out almost like a dashboard. It felt pretty good. I gave it a few other rounds of epoxy in some spots, but after sanding, I felt pretty good about it. The next thing I had to do is load the thing up with foam. So this is the foam that you use basically like in the hardware store. And you can see I filled it in the certain spots and let it set up and dry, and then basically just scraped it off with, I first used a saw to cut it off small and then hit it with my sander until it was smooth. It was actually really around this point that I felt like I was making some major progress, and it seemed like I could actually restore this thing. So I sanded it a bit more, put a quick little guide coat of black on it, and then brought it outside so I could see kind of what it looked like in the light. But it was getting smoother. All the major gaps were filled. I knew I needed to do some final body work on it. Once I brought it into the light, it actually started looking like a dashboard, and it certainly started feeling like one as well. I can't tell you how little structural integrity it had when I first started the project. Like, it was falling apart in every single corner. Everything was cracked. Basically, after the epoxy, I was able to start feeling that it was going to be a dashboard again. But I wanted to see what it would feel like in the car and make sure that nothing I was doing warped it. So I brought it over to the car and did a quick test fit in its spot to make sure it was going to work the way I was hoping it would. So next I had to do the body filler. Most of the stuff was pretty straightforward. You know, I just skimmed it over a lot of the spots where I had the foam and some of the low spots on the epoxy. I did a couple of guide coats. The main problem was, though, is that I had to completely recreate the profile of the left side of the dash, you know, where the chunk had been fully removed. So I had to do a few layers of body filler there and some really careful sanding, to be honest. I had to really get in there and hand sand it for quite some time to feel satisfied with the overall shape of the dash. So it was body filler a few times, back and forth, sanding back and forth, and as you can see, the end result after all that, it looked pretty good. So I decided to throw on really quickly, just spray on. I had a little extra vinyl sitting around in the garage, and I wanted to see how it laid. I wasn't sure. Everyone had told me that the vinyl shows everything, so you got to make sure that it's really dialed underneath. So, which is the case for the most part. So I did a quick spray, and here is a quick preview of what I was looking at after. So in the next video, I'm going to show you the exciting conclusion of how this thing turned out. I'd never wrapped a dash in vinyl before, so if I had to do it again now, I'd probably be a little better at it and probably use heat a little bit more, but I'm really satisfied with how it came out. It's been in my car now for a year, so stay tuned for the next video. I'm going to show you how to wrap your Porsche dashboard once you've done a restoration on it. Thank you so much for subscribing. We'll see you next time.